Osio Toichu, Odo Punachaledan Dachunagiski. This is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing of the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle. Again, I'm humbled as I set before you, listening audience, who impart, knowledge and wisdom, spirituality, and with the hope that the listener, my brothers, my sisters, will be touched by what I have to say, what my organization represents. Ooh, today I come before you again with a bit of frustration and even a touch of anger um, and disappointment. Not surprised. I just got off of a site some minutes ago um, talking about fraudulent indigenous groups around the country. I had spoken on this briefly with regards to the Oklahoma Cherokees, Tahlequah. And I was listening to a comment that John Ross had made, and I find that so Ross, who a descendant, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe he's a descendant of the Ross, the same Ross that partook in the signing away of millions of acres to the American government back in the 1800s, made comments that were disturbing, you know, with regards to Cherokees. And his statements were that there were only three band of Cherokee Indians, and there were some other, there were some other, groups. I mean, not groups. I'm sorry. There were some other people who had, made some comments. Some other female and native Cherokee women who said that, they concurred with what he had said. Basically, there were only three other, bands of the Cherokees, you know, Oklahoma and two other states, North Carolina and I forget the other. I think maybe Texas or something like that. And I understand. Again, I had said in one of my other videos that there's some Indians who feel as though they're being targeted for theft, and in some cases, this is true. Now, the majority of the comments that they made um, were directed because of the narrator, the person who was narrating the video, the YouTube video. They said that most of the fraudulent claims were white people, which didn't surprise me. People have to learn to understand that this country was founded on, and I'm talking the United States, this country was founded on theft, fraud, and deception. You know, as a house is built on stilts, so shall it fall. This house was built on fraudulent ground. So here we have descendants of those who engage in activities. They were saying that there were some white Cherokees who were only engaging in the culture somewhat for profit. They were trying to open up casinos. Now, the organization I represent, the Cherokee Blackfeet, we're self-sustained. We don't ask the government for a dollar. We have our own land that we purchased. And when I saw some of the names that were being put forth on the video, my organization was there. I saw it vaguely. But when they were talking about the frauds and the people who were looking to capitalize off of indigenous culture, they specifically said it's mostly white people. This is what they said. I found that interesting, but it didn't surprise me. Again, as most people who know and understand history, this country was founded off that, and most of the people who committed these acts of deception, fraud, and theft were white folks who came from Europe. It's of no surprise. So some of their children engage in these practices constantly, on a grand scale. So it was no surprise to me. What bothered me particularly more so than anything else is what was Ross and some of his colleagues had said with regards to the only Cherokee groups were in Oklahoma, North Carolina, and I believe Texas was the other state. Don't quote me on that. And I said to myself, wait a minute. Now, John Ross, I don't know, if he was a former chief. Also like Chad Smith, who I didn't agree with because, Chad Smith was behind the removal of the freedmen, and oh, forgive me, my blood pressure is boiling. I'm trying to maintain, in my comments, a level of civility here. Uh, Chad Smith and some of the council wanted to remove the black Cherokees. You know, um, and I'm saying to myself here, this Ross, John Ross, who was saying that the only authentic Cherokee groups are the three states, the Oklahoma, North Carolina, etc. And I said, this man, for I believe he was, former chief of the Cherokees in Oklahoma for a while, if I'm not mistaken, can be so naive and simple. There was a movie that I saw, trying to remember the name of it. It was about a Cherokee, a little boy. I think this movie was done in the 90s, and it was about a little Cherokee boy from North Carolina who his father was Cherokee Indian and died in the war, something like that, in World War One and or World War Two, and no, his parents had died. His father I believe, was Cherokee, and his mother was white, and he was sent off. I can't remember the name of this movie to save my life, but the significance is tremendous here because when he was picked up by his grandparents, who his grandmother was Cherokee Indian and his grandfather was white. It was up in the mountains, and they came to bring him, back up into the mountains to raise him. And um, uh, the brother who was in Dances with Wolves, the one that played Kicking Bird, was something Green. His name is Green. He was almost like an uncle to the little Cherokee brother, and he told him the story. And Cherokee legends, these stories are true. Now the story was uh, when the Trail of Tears commenced, when the Indians were forced out in 1837, when Cherokees were forced out with their slaves. You know, the forced removals, of course, angered all of the indigenous peoples, and some were not going to go quietly. Some fought what they could, and some splintered. Now, this is what I want to say, because there were those who left before the removal date was to commence by Scott, who was I believe the soldier or the colonel who was sent to remove the indigenous peoples, and there was most who did not want to go. They could not believe that um, the United States government would actually remove them from their lands, and most stayed. Some left. Some splintered and went in different directions. So this is what I want to key in on here, because for those who did not stay and went on the trail, where did they go? Can they account for them? And how many? Because from what I remember, the Ross faction that left actually maybe months before, or almost a year before the actual date, him and his wife Quady Ross, and she died on the trip, to Oklahoma. But the ones who left before the actual removal date, how many were there, and where did they go? Not all of them went to Oklahoma. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because when the young Cherokee brother in the movie, hopefully I remember the name of this movie before this video is done, was teaching him what happened, told him about the soldiers, told him how they were forced to drop everything at the last minute, told him about those who ended up going up into the mountains in North Carolina. And told them what the white soldiers did to them, and told them what the trip did, to them. But he spoke briefly about the splinter groups. But my thing is, can they account for every single Cherokee that left from Georgia in 1837? For those who left earlier than the forced removal date, can they account for all of them going to North Carolina? No, they cannot. Some could have gone to South Carolina and planted roots elsewhere. I have stories of this in my South Carolina, family tree. But, so this is what disturbs me. My brother Miguel, we need to go to Congress on this one, because these bastards, excuse me, people, I'm angry. These bastards have the nerve to say that every other group but those three groups who are being sponsored by the American government, they're being subsidized by the American government, but yet they have nerve. They have nerve to say that the only authentic Cherokee groups are the three that they listed and that I spoke earlier. They're attacking of those groups that are involved in fraudulent activities. Granted, yes, go after them who are engaged, in things that are opposite of our culture and traditions. But as indigenous people, I'll say this: we're not supposed to be engaged in gambling. That's against our nature. It's against our culture. That's not something that we were, engaged in initially. That's something taught to us, just like alcohol. So to John Ross, I, a wise man would think carefully before he speaks on things that will incite people, or just upset people. Uh, um, when you think about this, with the blood quantum and everything, the lineage, people trying to find their roots and their backgrounds, there's no amount of blood testing in the world that can find the right and true Indian. The right and true Indian doesn't live in the blood, it lives in the heart and the mind. The spiritual reality of honesty, truth, and justice, and equality. That's the spirit. And that's the true blood. And a wise Indian knows that you do not incite people to anger over foolishness and foolish comments that you make. Our people are suffering not because of what we've done to ourselves. It's because of what the government and some of its white citizens have done to our people over the centuries. And they've caused these confusions that currently exist today, and we're trying to weed and sort through this. Now, again, I don't blame them for the comments they made about those people, but the narrowing of the authentic indigenous. So what do you say about those who have been enslaved? You got your language and you got your little pieces of land to refer to. For those of us who are lost in the cities, you got some damn nerve, John Ross. And I say this, I swear, I wish I was in Oklahoma. I would say this to your face. If I could travel out there, I would come out there with an open heart for dialogue, to sit down, to tell you that every Indian who lives on an Indian reservation is not a true Indian. Our people have been splintered and dispersed throughout this country. And during the late 60s and the 70s, when there was an Indian Act that they devised to remove and relocate Indians off of the reservations so they can absorb them into society, a lot of Indians actually left the reservations. Did they come back? A lot of them did not come back. So who did they cohabitate with? Who did they mingle with? Do you know? Can you account for that? You have some nerve. When some of them, even on the reservations, are mixed with white people and others. And then have the nerve to say, oh, well, these people, they're distorting our culture. Who are you talking about? Be specific with your words. Are you speaking about those who are engaged in illegal activities, trying to set up casinos? Those distorting the culture and not understanding it? Look, I'm not perfect. I've only been engaged in researching and studying my culture for 7 years now. And it's a part of me. My family is from North Carolina, and my mother's side of the family is from North Carolina. Hello? Up in the mountains. Every Cherokee Indian did not go to Kuala, because some of them sold their souls. They changed their names. When some of the Indians were told that they had to go to put their names on the rolls, they said, "What? For what? I know who I am." They didn't want to be absorbed into that. Man, got some doggone nerve talking about these people who are misrepresenting the culture have doing more damage. Some of them are, but again, be specific in your words of who are you pointing fingers at? John Ross and Chad Smith. So-called chiefs. You show the ancestors a great disrespect and disservice with your unwise comments. Sellouts for money. I have to forgive me. I was upset one of the previous videos I did, but this one right here really just took me to a different level tonight. I'm almost close to swearing here. That's how angry I am. I just heard this video. With regards to the Ross faction, the Boudinats and what they accomplished with the signing away of lands back in the 1800s. There was infighting over that. Internal conflict. Now, here these knuckleheads here making, idiotic statements, and saying that there are people who are just there to cause problems, and they're looking to take from the Cherokees. Again, oh, excuse me. Again, I'm more incensed because I saw the the, one of the names from my organization. Like, I saw it vaguely. It said Cherokee Blackfeet. It looked like the full title of my organization. Talking about they're looking to take what we have. Mm. You have to depend on the federal government totally, for your livelihood. What do you have? Why do you think some of the other indigenous peoples were so adamant about maintaining their identity and their culture? Because they were independent. Dependent Indians and independent Indians will never get along. Those who want to be free to those who want to stay chained to a system that is full of deception and trickery. They've been that way from day one, and they're not going to change now. And there are those who have been turned to that, who are still calling themselves indigenous. John Ross, I'm sorry, you have become one of them. Got nerve. Gonna kick off the freedmens like they did something to you, like they asked to be slaves down in Georgia. Those people who are there now, they didn't ask to be there. And if y'all don't want them, then you cut a swath of land for them and let them do for themselves. You better not ever let me come down there and speak. They're going to get a tongue lashing from me. And I don't care who's listening. Hypocrites, man. It's in the worst way. And while you're sitting there waddling in your subsidy checks from the government, me and my people, and we're located up in Maine, we're self-sustained and self-servient. We cater to our ways. Now, the Cherokees were independent people at one time. That's what we're striving for. Oh yes, and we are actually in the process, of tax exemption. They're gonna have to recognize us. I don't give a goddamn who don't like it, because in their constitution it says that indigenous peoples are not supposed to be taxed, and we are claiming our rights, and damn it, we're taking our position as a people because we know who we are. No, we're not full blood. That's all right. We got some full bloods running around here acting just like they're oppressors. So if that's the case, then, and there are those who are not standing up within the if there's so much corruption within the tribal nations, then maybe some of the mixed bloods need to come in. For those who stand on a position of right over wrong, truth over lies, they need to come in and make change. Because I heard that there's been corruption going. I don't know how true it is. I heard there's been corruption going on up on the reservation. That's because people choose to serve themselves rather than serve the people. Should be focused. If y'all really love indigenous culture, like you say, go help some of your brothers in the Dakotas. if you feel as though that, you know, all natives are in a position, you know, that you can help others, network and reach out to other indigenous organizations and stop bothering with righteous indigenous groups. See, they didn't say anything about the indigenous groups that are not fraudulent. He should have said, okay, there are fraudulent groups and there are non-fraudulent groups. But he said there are 3 authentic, meaning that all else is a fraud. You suggestive son of a bitch. So I ain't no punk. I ain't scared of none of them out there. I'm just coming across and saying, look, a wise Indian would not collaborate with an enemy um, to make it look as though, you know, there's only 1 or 2 real Indians and the rest are all fake. A wise Indian would say there are those who are frauds and there are those who are not. The 3 that are recognized by the federal government, which really don't give a hoot about recognition. What people should recognize is that indigenous groups that are self-sustaining and working and organizing um, um, for economic reform and cultural reform. That's what we should be recognizing. But Ross and these people are too worried, you know, about what they're getting from the government, and they don't want those pork and beans and $130 a month subsidies cut off, because that's what it amounts to. What pride do you have? What sense of independence do you have if they cut you off? If the government comes in, if you don't get rid of these people, because from what I heard, the pressure was from the government about the freedmen. If you don't get rid of these darkies, you know, we're gonna have we're gonna cut off your subsidies. This is the word that I got. I don't know how true it is, but if I was a betting man, I would put my money on it, because it wasn't too long they tried to kick out the darker Indians out, calling them freedmen. Shit, you shouldn't even call them that anymore. You got so many of them who are mixed with the so-called full-bloods that are there. Can you imagine the animosity and the anger that they causing from the babies that are growing up in that environment? This is madness. Look at the disease that this beast has spread into our people. Madness, absolute madness. And you know, I say this again with a heavy heart. You know, it's this whole order. It reminds me of a scripture in the book of Corinthians, 15th chapter, verse 38, or 30, no, verse 30, I believe 35. God said He's not the author of confusion. God is not the author of confusion, but a wicked man is. All it takes is one, and we got 300 years of it, maybe a little more, maybe 500, of a whispering devil. That's right, I said it. A whispering devil, whispering in people's ears and telling them, these people, they're no good. These people are evil. You gotta get rid of them. And the one who's saying it is the one who's evil and wicked. And he has corrupted the most righteous of people and turned them inside out against their own selves. Still can't see it. If you believe that there are some people who are claiming to be indigenous and they're on the wrong path, then go speak out. Say something on a platform. Go to Washington. Go speak to President Obama if you can. With your influence and power as a chief of the big, mighty Tahlequah and Kuala, that's right, both of them, North Carolina and um, Oklahoma. Go speak to the big chief, President Obama, and tell him that these things need to be addressed more. Look at the confusion that white people have caused. It's serious. You know, I'm going in some of these sites and some people are mad as hell. I hear some Indians saying, yo, you know, they tired of white folks trying to steal the culture and this and that. And, it's never ending. This is not going to stop. I didn't create this, but it's here and it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. You have skinheads still in this country. You got the Ku Klux Klan. They sold just recently 13 million assault rifles right before they passed that new assault rifles ban in Congress. 13 million. So who's buying all these guns? What they preparing for? War? There were some militias who, I believe, you know, just like the Patriots, I think they call them. You know, they had caught them over the past 10 or 15 years planning assaults on local governments. Oh yeah, I remember reading in the paper, the Patriots, the federal government caught them planning on going to kill state troopers, judges. They caught these people. These are white men planning on killing, you know, the government, some people in government and different branches. And you mean to tell me that they couldn't uproot all of these organizations? They're still there. From what I'm hearing, the numbers of them are increasing tenfold, 100-fold, all over the country. What's the government doing about it? Nothing. They got their agents in various places watching them, I would assume. God forbid, you know, to all my white Indian brothers, be clear about this. If something should, God forbid, something happen here. There have been race wars in this country before. Where the people want to know, after Martin Luther King was killed, riots broke out, and pockets around the country, little racial conflict broke out. And you have good white people who have fought with the darker peoples to, you know, fight against this evil. But in a oh Lord, in a time of conflict and war, people lose their heads. So unless all of us collectively stand up against these evils and ignorance and confusion that is pervasive and just bathed in this society, unless we all, and I'm talking about all of the righteous, because all of the righteous outweigh, I believe this with all my heart, all of the righteous outweigh the wicked here. Most people prove this when they voted for Obama again. Overlooking color, people want change. People want honest, coherent, and consistent change in this country. But the few are mounting. The few wicked are mounting and preparing. All them guns being sold, I ain't got no assault rifles. You know, for what? What I need that for? You know, what are these people preparing for? Mass murder? Who are they planning to kill? You look at all of these gun shows that they show, 90+% of the people who are buying guns is white men. And I don't care who don't like it. It's the truth. What are they preparing for? So, what does that have to do with the what I'm talking about? This commentary, on the claims, of fraud by John. I'm calling names today. John Ross, Chad Smith, and others, from the Cherokees, and possibly other indigenous organizations as well. They act like this is what kills me. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was my keyboard. Wow. Whew. Yeah, they act. I'm sorry. They act like this whole thing, with regards to the country, that someone's gonna come with a bulldozer and move them off. I want, I said, goddamn, well, goddamn. I said this on the video. Why are they threatened by? Why are some of the Indians on these reservations with the Cherokees threatened by the darker Indians? Is it genetics? I believe that's what it is. I believe exactly. No one wants to speak about this. It's genetics. We're gonna change our DNA. Our hair is not gonna be straight anymore. Our hair is not gonna be, long and silky, like white folks. That's why I believe that some Indians, I don't care who don't like this shit, I believe that some Indians marry white people because of the image and because, oh, I get to keep my long, straight, silky hair. So they say, I can't, I don't want to marry to African Americans, the natives who are mixed African Americans, or they have that coarse and kinky hair. I don't want that. Well, stop playing with it and tell the goddamn truth, so people can move on. So John Ross, the descendant of a trader, they can cut a swath of land for those freedmen. I hear that some of the freedmen, they want to cut their own swath of land. So you let them separate into a territory of their own. Hateful and racist sons of bitches, man. My brothers and sisters, please, forgive me. These ways that they're exhibiting are not indicative or even likened unto our ancestors and how they were, for the most part. They have adopted the image instead of what's in the heart. And a scared and fearful people of frivolous things. How can you lose your culture if it's within your heart and your mind and you have your children? Hmm? The land, we understand, black people ain't steal this land. White people did. I hope this video branches out and reaches across John Ross's desk, and he sees me on his computer. I really hope he does, for him to really think about what comes out of his mouth and the hurt that he causes. The bottom line is, it is what it is. today. This country has been forever changed. But not on the inside. It should not be on the inside. The outside, the images have changed, yes, but not on the inside. That's where we error. That's where we err. We deviate when we change our values, our principles. If people who are unhappy and dissatisfied, and the with regards to the freedmen's again, if they're and if the whiter looking Cherokees are unhappy with them, cut a swath of land for them. Do they deserve it? You goddamn right they do. And enslave people by the Ross faction and the Buddha who decided to engage, you know, in slavery, even though the slavery wasn't likened unto the chattel slavery of their white neighbors, but engaged in the slavery nonetheless. And now here you are in 2013 talking about the fraudulent groups and have the nerve to put my organization's name up there. We don't want none of your land. We don't want none of the land of where you are currently. And yes, we have adopted the culture, and we come from the splinter of those who did not follow the trails. They deviated and went to the east, went to the west, went to the south, went to the north. Some of us survived off the trail. I know the story of Sali and his family, who was caught because they killed one of the soldiers that tried to rape, I believe, one of his daughters. But his children managed to escape. I believe some of his other children managed to escape. Where did they go? In North Carolina. Do they know where these people went? Can they account for every last one of them? Their children? How many stories were like that? Do they even know? No, they do not. They say that there were only 5,000 Cherokees at one time, 10,000 Cherokees. How do they know that? Anything this man comes and says, it comes out of his mouth, our people quick to believe them. Damn fools. You even believe his damn history of your own people. He tells you that the Cherokees were birthed out of the side of a tree. You believe that? Tired of playing with this nonsense. You know, in order for our people to forge alliances, to move ahead, we have to remember. But you can't do that going to the one who put you in the predicament that you're in. And you can't depend on him for your survival. And then be proud to be indigenous. Indigenous means to the land in which you are born and where you come from. You're connected to it. But therefore, you know the history of the land. You know the history of your people. Most Cherokees running around here, some today, don't know that we didn't spring up out of no damn creeks and rivers out of this country. We came here over 16,000 years ago. They find it. I spoke to a white a woman's professor, and she said to me quietly, she said, "You know what?" She said, "Yeah, they're finding evidence that the indigenous peoples more than likely came down the land bridge. Some of the archaeologists are arguing amongst themselves that this is in fact true because of the archaeological digs that is unearthing all kinds of antiquities, archaeological evidence that shows that there was in fact a crossing that came from Asia. We came from India, damn it. I think Christopher Columbus called us Indians. Fools. I understand the creation stories, folklore, it's the humor, but fact is fact. Myth is myth. People write fiction, novelty books all the time. I don't know. God has given me something that is welling up inside of me for years. And for the most part, I have been very humble, and I am sincere in the information that I'm giving to my brothers and sisters. I wasn't born on an Indian reservation, and in some respects, I thank God for that. Because some of us on the Indian reservations have been so blinded, just like so many of us inside the cities as well. And this was not by accident. You think this man really wanted us to know our true history? It's easier to believe a lie and much harder to accept the truth. And such is the condition of our people today. That's why when John Ross is talking about the three authentic, some damn nerve. That's like saying the only real Indians are Cherokees. And you got some people running around here who act like that. We're the only real Indians. Say what? Over 500 nations. Well over 500 nations. They just found a Mayan city in Georgia. Again, over a year ago. People need to study and research more. Stop depending on someone else to give you your information or who you are. Go meditate. Dig deep into the ancestors. Fast a little bit. You'd be surprised what information you receive. Fact and truth must be replaced with myth and storytelling. Our people are good at telling stories. We did this for various reasons, to bring humor, a little excitement sometimes. The children love the folklore stories that we told to our kids. But when it comes to the restoration now, that's finished. The days for facts and real knowledge is mandatory. Our children need this. They don't need any more lies, no more deception, no more smiles and handshakes. We must change. Our ancestors looking up or looking down at us. Some of them angry. They can't believe what we've become. Some of them wouldn't even recognize some of us today if they were here. And then our actions, the language that we speak, it's not our own. So, the problem that, exists is still being manufactured, and he doesn't even have to be there anymore. They got us they got us acting and doing their bidding for them. I'll give an example. You know, I was on a site where they show Native Americans. They said Native Americans are fighting in more wars now. They were saying it proudly. I said, did they forget about what Muhammad Ali did back in the 70s? He said, no Viet Cong ever called me, nigga. Well, I'm going over there killing them for. Now here we are. You know, I'll probably get a knock on my door for this one. Here we are, bragging and boasting, some of us. We going overseas to go fight. When your people on the Indian reservations are destitute and suffering, and you proud to go kill somebody else for oil. Mm. Like I said, I'll probably get a knock on the door for these comments. I don't care. Life ain't worth living if I can't tell the truth. So, one of the sites said, if you got anything negative to say, don't come on this site. I'm like, ain't this some shit? People quote Martin Luther King all day. But they don't remember that they murdered him because he spoke out against the Vietnam War. So now our indigenous people are acting like them, being arrogant, joining forces for illegal wars, things that have nothing to do with the welfare of our people. We were the terrorists at one time, remember? There's red savages. They're everywhere. We have to kill them before they kill us. In our own country. People have forgotten that. Probably have to eat some garlic after this. My pressure's up. Just remember, we are responsible for one another. Truth can be a dangerous thing for the wicked. For the righteous, it's a light, it's a beacon of light. If we are in error, we must address it wherever we find it. And we must be full of humility if we are in error and someone addresses our errors, says, this is what's wrong, you need to change. That's a part of maturity in a human being. When you're wrong, you're wrong. John Ross, you wrong as hell. Chad Smith, you wrong as hell. And for all those who follow in that line, you're wrong as hell. I don't care how much power you got in your position. Chiefs have been reprimanded and put back in their place or sat down by their own people in the past. The woman had more power than the chief. If the chief was in error and doing wrong, the woman sat the chief down. The women, the clans mothers. And you mean to tell me some of the clans mothers, they don't see an error here? So if they can't see an error here and they don't have power, then that means the indigenous ways, the true indigenous ways, when you're dealing with hierarchy and the political structure, it's corrupt, and it will ultimately implode within itself. because you will start to, have conflict sooner or later. People are fighting today over what someone else created, the problems that exist, and then people want to redirect and say, oh, all you do is got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can be successful. People keep telling these lies. So I again, I just wanted to, express this because this is so. I tell all my listeners, brothers and sisters, speak about this, please. Talk about this. These people have no right to generalize and say that they are the only indigenous Cherokees left in this country. That's what their claim is. They're the only indigenous left in this country that are Cherokee. It's sad. It's sad that their ways are perfect in their application of the culture. Well, if they are, then reach out instead of trying to demean and destroy. Reach out to those who are in error. And I'm talking about those who are trying to self-sustain themselves, not those who are trying to capitalize and be greedy and are full of deception. I ain't talking about them. Those, you can call them fraudulent because they are involved in wicked dealings. I'm talking about those who are self-sustained, like my organization and other groups who are self-sustained, not looking for any handouts, but are organizing themselves and are not spewing lies, deceit, and causing problems. Tribes even 400 or 500 years ago had issues and problems. We had wars, but ultimately we reached out to one another and we smoked the pipe and solved our differences and our problems. We didn't have to do this with the whole world watching. We did this amongst ourselves. But this bastard Ross and Smith, they exposed it to the whole world. And the problems that arise from that. I'm upset. It's blatant. I'm really upset over this one. Um, but it won't railroad me. Push me off the track of what our people are doing here in the Northeast. We're going to maintain our course. My chief is a wonderful man. We don't have all of the backings of the media, um, and intergovernmental connections. We don't care for that because we know at the end of the day who the Creator is going to smile. God bless the child that has his own. Well, Chad and John, you know, those lands were stolen and given to you, stolen from someone else, and because there was tribes all over this country, and those lands were given to you by the government. We're not going to sit back and wait for somebody else to give us something that really righteously belongs to our people. And I guarantee you this one day, the righteous and Indian, we will be restored. I hope that Ross and Smith see the error in their ways, and others like them, and will see to it to make change. And if not, I don't know what else to say to you other than what goes around comes around. Remember what happened before when the Ross faction reached in Oklahoma, the Budanites. Um, Ross and Budanite and I can't remember the other one's name. There were the Cherokees who were waiting for them, the traditionalists, and they killed a few of them. That's justice. So they had the people. I hear some of these Cherokees argue, say they had no choice; they had to do it. They did have a choice. They didn't have to do it. It's because of that signature, those signatures that they signed. The federal government claims to this day, your people signed it over. We still own it. So if they would have never gotten those signatures, they couldn't have said to this day that that land still belongs to them. Millions of acres. They said, oh, they would have killed our people off. No, they wouldn't have. They tried to kill most of us off on the trail. They were hoping that on those trails that most of our people would have died off. And a lot did. Over 1,500 to 2,000 people died. They said by the time that the Cherokees reached Oklahoma, there were no young and no old. So there's no today, and there's no past. So there's no future. Because the elders represent the wisdom and the knowledge. So their intent was to kill off the Cherokees. And it seems like they've managed to do that. And I'm talking, you see, death in the indigenous culture doesn't mean just 6 feet underground. Death is more mental, spiritual, and cultural. You kill their language, you kill their people. You infuse and give them your way, your perspective, your language, and you change them. Well, Chad, John, they did a hell of a job. On that note, I say, Wado, thank you for taking some time to hear me and spirits of our people. I submit my heart, my mind, my soul to my people for truth, for justice. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep teaching. I'm going to keep speaking out until I'm gone. I can't breathe no more. And I thank you. So, Nigido, peace and blessings. This is Dodo Kuno Khaled and Adakhlagi, Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing in the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle. Who's still trying to find my place within the Cherokee culture amongst our peoples. I know what my mission is. In the culture, in the practice of the culture. The essence of it is simple. Truth and justice. Freedom. Peace, love, and happiness. That's the simple basics. The laws. Follow the laws, the simple laws. I shall not steal. I shall not lie and cheat. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not kill unless you're in self-defense. Simple laws. Simple. And, I look to grow and mature more day by day within the culture, within the Cherokees. I hope to reach out Cherokees from North Carolina, Oklahoma, wherever I find them, or Indians anywhere, whether they're Apache, Passamaquoddy, Penobscot, Apache. Say that again. Um, it doesn't matter. Tecumseh's vision was the best thing that I had ever heard for our people. I still believe in it, and I know you do too. Donadaga honey, anigido, until we meet again. Wado, and my people, until I see you and speak to you again. Um, I'm out.